This description of the U.S. Army Mural is narrated by Dr. King Banyan. As we look at the Army painting, we begin in the upper left-hand corner with the flag representing the Grand Union. Then we go back to 1775 with two important events. In April, we had the Battle of Lexington and the shot heard round the world. And then we had the start of the Continental Army, which began on June 14th. In this vignette, we see a 4-member cannon team along with Molly Pitcher, who was the first woman compensated for military service by the U.S. government. Even today, when the armored divisions have their annual banquet, they offer their first toast to Molly Pitcher. In the background, we see Valley Forge and Paul Revere astride his horse. A bit to the right of that, we see George Washington crossing the Delaware. Looking to the right are two standing figures. The man on the left represents the War of 1812, and above to the left of him, in the distance, is Minnesota's own Fort Snelling, which dates back to 1820. To the right of him is a man from the Mexican-American War that took place between 1846 and 1848. Looking again to the right, we see 3 figures representing the Civil War. There is a woman spy. Women played an important role in the Civil War as spies, believe it or not, and in addition, being nurses and support personnel is seen below and further to the right. Next to her is a man in Union blues, and slightly behind and to the right of him is a man in a red shirt with black pants, representing a non-commissioned officer in the Minnesota militia. A bit more to the right is a man representing the Spanish-American War of 1898. He is holding his hand up to call out, because this was the first time America was making its presence known on the world stage. Above the Civil War and Spanish-American War figures are several Apache helicopters, used in the Vietnam War, honoring the Army Air Cavalry, and above them is the Abbey at Monte Cassino, where soldiers from Little Falls fought a World War II battle. At the bottom left is a man in modern clothes standing beside Thomas Paine. This is Gordon Gerling, the brainchild behind this project. He is pointing to Paine's essay Common Sense, which was read almost as much as the Bible in 1776. Below Thomas Paine is a homeless veteran sitting on a curb. He represents those who have difficulty adjusting from war. We need to honor them and help them with healing. In the center of the painting, you will notice a World War I doughboy above a white cross. On that cross is the date November 11, 1918, which was originally Armistice Day and is now called Veterans Day. Also in the center of the painting is a World War II figure of a man landing at Normandy on D-Day. Just to his lower left is a skull and 2 boots that commemorate the 1942 Death March at Bataan. There were quite a few Minnesotans who were forced to endure this torture. At the lower right of the World War II GI, who is standing on a map of Italy, you will notice a small patch with a shield, a star, and a sword, honoring the artist's father, who fought in World War II. And just below his feet is a patch representing the Minnesota National Guard 34th Infantry Red Bull Brigade. To the right of the cross, wearing a uniform with a fur collar, is a Korean War soldier from 1950 to 1953. At the bottom center of the painting is a Vietnam War soldier from 1959 to 1975. To his right is a contemporary GI who is shown wearing 3 different uniforms from the 1990s. A woodland flak vest, a First Gulf War helmet cover, and a jacket and pants from the Second Gulf War. Behind and to the right of the Gulf War soldier is a woman GI in a digital camo hat, now a defunct uniform. She is paying homage to a fallen soldier whose coffin is draped with the American flag. Below the coffin are the Purple Heart, Silver Star, and Bronze Star medals. This description of the U.S. Navy Mural is narrated by Dr. King Banyan. The Continental Navy was established on October 13, 1775, but was disbanded after the Revolutionary War. President John Adams was instrumental in re-establishing the Continental Navy, leading to the founding of the Department of the Navy in 1798. Looking at the lower left side of the painting, we see a lone sailor, Ray Stumpf of Little Falls, who was a Navy Seabee diver, looking out at the Navy's progression through U.S. history. Between Chief Stumpf and the U.S. flag is a World War II Arigato-class submarine with a broom lashed to its periscope to signify a clean sweep of the enemy. In the flag, there is a list of 13 individuals who brought in new components or programs to modernize the Navy throughout its history. Down and to Stump's right is a Navy Chief Petty Officer, and to the Chief's right are Admirals John Reeves and William Leahy performing a change of command. Admiral Leahy, on the right, was one of 4 five-star fleet admirals during World War II. Behind the admirals is a Navy burial at sea ceremony. To the right of Admiral Leahy is a crew of Navy SEALs coming to shore, and below that we see a Mark V diving helmet as worn by Chief Stump. Further to the right we see a female naval clerk. To her right is a female naval pilot pointing upwards toward a bright future. We also see a naval engineer and a gunner's mate. In the lower right corner, we see a little girl staring out at us to represent the families that are left behind during tours of duty. Above this grouping of Navy personnel is a Seabee standing on dry land with a shovel. At the upper left of the painting is the USS Constitution, known as Old Ironsides, on its 200th anniversary voyage. Further up and left is the World War II Battle of Midway that took place in June of 1942. At the top center of the painting is a parachute bringing a NASA space capsule in for landing. The Navy was responsible for recovering capsules from the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo space programs. 4 of the first 7 astronauts were Navy-trained pilots. Up and to the right of the parachute landing are the ironclad battleships the USS Monitor and the USS Merrimack at the Battle of Hampton Roads from the Civil War of 1861 to 1865. Behind the 2 ironclads is a tribute to the attack on Pearl Harbor and the USS Arizona Monument. You will also see in the distance the U.S. naval fleet off the Barbary Coast that President Jefferson sent to fight piracy in the early 1800s. This description of the U.S. Coast Guard mural is narrated by Dr. King Banyan. The U.S. Coast Guard was created by Alexander Hamilton on August 4, 1790, to collect entry taxes at American ports. Then called the Revenue Cutter Service, as a branch of the Treasury Department, they recouped about $70 million that was owed the government from the Revolutionary War. The prominent figure on the left side of the painting is wearing a Massachusetts Naval Militia uniform. Below and to his right is an actual rescue scene that happened off Cape Hatteras in October of 1896. It was an all-African-American team. Water rescues were, and are, a prominent Coast Guard activity. In 1915, the Revenue Cutter Service and the United States Rescue Service combined to become the United States Coast Guard, which is the oldest contiguous military branch. The Coast Guard is responsible for guarding all U.S. waterways. Over 3,500 miles of shoreline, 3 great rivers, the Mississippi, the Missouri, and the Ohio, and the 5 Great Lakes. Above the militiaman is the Split Rock Lighthouse on Lake Superior near Duluth. Until recently, the Coast Guard oversaw all U.S. lighthouses. To the militiaman's left is a marker buoy because they are in the purview of the Coast Guard. Above the buoy are a whale and a polar bear because the Coast Guard is involved in protecting our environment and wildlife. At the bottom of the painting are 5 bales of marijuana because the Coast Guard is responsible for coastal drug law enforcement. Just below the marijuana bales is the Medal of Honor awarded to Coast Guard Signal First Class Douglas Munro after the Battle of Guadalcanal. To the right of the Medal of Honor is a Merchant Marine patch. The Merchant Marine was active from 1942 to 1946. At the top of the painting, to the right of the Split Rock Lighthouse, is an iceberg. Just to the right of the iceberg is a Liberty-class ship that was used by the Merchant Marine in World War II. Looking at the lower right of the painting, we see a female Asian American diver, a fireman, and an African American Coast Guard SEAL. Above them is a woman playing taps, and above her is a coastie climbing the rigging of the Golden Eagle, which is a tall ship the Americans captured from the Germans in World War II. A little further up is a submarine because the Coast Guard is responsible for guiding in the nuclear-powered subs when they surface. That is when they are the most vulnerable, so the coasties use helicopters overhead and patrol boats called cutters to protect the submarines from being attacked. Below the helicopter is the Statue of Liberty, and at the top right is the 9/11 terror attack on the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. The Coast Guard works with the Department of Homeland Security to secure our borders. This description of the U.S. Marines Mural is narrated by Dr. King Banyan. The signposts at the left middle of the painting list landmark battles fought by the U.S. Marine Corps since its founding at Tun Tavern in Philadelphia on November 10, 1775. It includes Belleau Wood of World War I and Harper's Ferry of the Civil War. Above the signpost is Chapultepec Castle, built by the Aztec Emperor Montezuma. The Marines' hymn Halls of Montezuma commemorates this battle from the Mexican-American War of 1847. At the top left, above the castle, is the famous World War II flag raising above Mount Suribachi during the Battle of Iwo Jima in 1945. Minnesotan Charles W. Lindbergh, who was at the historic flag raising, donated dirt he brought from Iwo Jima that is ground into the painting at the base of the flag. Below and to the right of Mount Suribachi are several more scenes from World War II. The jet at the center top is a supersonic F-8 Crusader jet fighter used by the Marines in Vietnam. To the right of the F-8 is a mushroom cloud from a nuclear explosion to remind us of the devastating potential of modern warfare. At the far right is one of the last amphibious landings at Da Nang during the Vietnam War in 1965. Just below and to the left of the landing is a fallen corpsman in a Vietnam-era uniform being treated by a medical corpsman wearing a World War II uniform. In the lower left corner is a Vietnam War soldier sitting with his dog. Dogs were used as scouts, sentries, and to pass messages. At the front left is a Vietnam War GI in full gear, and walking ahead of him is a GI wearing just a flak jacket. The jungle plants at the center of the painting remind us that historically Marines have found themselves in tropical climates, including during the Revolutionary War, where they were in the Caribbean raiding the islands to steal arms from the British. At the base of the jungle plants are bones representing the POW MIAs who were tragically left behind. There is also a pistol and a shell casing to remind us of the enduring trauma of war experienced by many veterans. At the lower right is Major Holly Zabinski, a helicopter and Osprey pilot. There is an Osprey in the upper right corner. Just behind and to her right is her father-in-law, Colonel Roy Edwards, a retired combat fighter pilot who flew 297 missions in Vietnam. To Major Zabinski's right is Sergeant Quentin Sam, who is from the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe in east-central Minnesota. Behind and to the right of Sergeant Sam is a Marine who is sort of looking away from everything to help us understand that being in combat never really leaves a veteran. The medals at the bottom right of the painting are those of Louis Chesty Puller, the most decorated and venerated Marine in the history of the Corps, and the only Marine to receive 5 Navy Crosses. Flag raising. This description of the U.S. Air Force Mural is narrated by Dr. King Banyan. The Air Force is the second youngest branch of the United States Armed Forces. It began as the United States Army Air Corps in 1907, which combined with the aviation divisions of the Navy and Marines to form the U.S. Army Air Force in September 18, 1947. Looking at the upper left corner of the painting, you will see Icarus falling from the sky, reminding us that humans have been fascinated with flying for a very long time. This myth is incorporated in U.S. Air Force history books. Below Icarus is the blue hot air balloon that first flew in 1783. It was created by the French Montgolfier brothers, inventors of the world's first successful hot air balloons. Benjamin Franklin was an interested observer of these early flights and brought this innovation back to the United States. During the Civil War in 1861 and 1862, both the Union and the Confederacy used hot air balloons for reconnaissance. To the right of the blue balloon is St. Cloud Base Freedom Flight Balloon that honors United States POWs and MIAs. As we look to the center of the painting, we see a Grumman P-12 biplane used by the U.S. Army until the mid-1930s. Below the biplane is a member of the Women Air Force Special Pilot Squad, known as WASPs. Because most male pilots were involved overseas, these 1,100 civilian women flew many kinds of planes around the United States to shuttle them from base to base or deliver supplies during World War II. To the right of the WASP is a vignette honoring the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. At the lower left is a U.S. Air Force Rescue Ranger operation. These elite pararescue jumpers, also known as PJs, are the Air Force's version of the other branch's elite fighting forces. They rescue and medically treat downed military personnel all over the world. The doctor pictured administering plasma is General David Hamler, who participated in over 30 evac missions in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. General Hamler is the first African American in Minnesota to be promoted to the rank of Brigadier General in either the Air Guard or National Guard. Looking at the far right corner, we see Brigadier General Sandra Best, former chief of the Minnesota Air Guard. She was the first woman in Minnesota to be promoted to the rank of Brigadier General in either the Air Guard or the National Guard. Just to General Best's left are patches from the 109th Airlift Squadron, the 133rd Airlift Wing, and the 148th Fighter Wing of the Minnesota Air Guard. The woman to the left of the patches, in the red t-shirt, is a medical evacuation specialist. Above the two women is a pilot in the cockpit of a C-130 Hercules military transport aircraft. The Gemini 4 astronaut, above the pilot, is U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Ed White, who was the first American to walk in space in 1965. To the left of Colonel White is an Air Force stratotanker refueling a jet fighter.